think it's over.
Could I trouble you please to share, or the officer to share the Wi-Fi log on? You just seem to have forgotten it. It's on the notice.
Yeah, so it's Harp 01582. The lowercase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lowercase h. Harp 01582.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Well, welcome everyone to this meeting of the Harpenden Town Council Planning Committee being held on Tuesday, the 4th of April. I will get my pages to open. Start with apologies for absence.
Yes, we have an apology from Councillor Pip Liver, who's away on holiday.
Are we happy to accept that apology?
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Item 2, declarations of interest. So just as a starting point, I am conscious that many members of this committee may have made, myself included, may have made public comments in the last several weeks about greenbelt applications as a general principle, and may have in passing made comments about this application in particular. I would like to put my phone on silent. I'd like to just note that we all come to this meeting with no predetermination, and we'll consider the full facts of all the applications as they are considered. Does anyone have any particular declarations of interest? No. Okay. Minutes of the meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 14th of March. Anyone got any comments on those? No? Can I just take them as true record? Lovely. Yes, this was the one with fairly many pages. I remember this meeting fondly.
Yes, it was a speedy meeting.
7 minutes.
Something like that, yeah.
Back to my work. So years you'd have thought I've gotten quicker at doing this.
They haven't got any shorter, has it?
Well, this is true. I still have the same number of initials. Chairman's report and urgent item. I have one urgent item, which is in relation to the application at Cross Lane. I've received a number of requests from members of the public to consider this application after the closure of the resident consultation period. Having considered it, doing so would not enable us, should the committee wish to make a resolution in the negative, it wouldn't enable us to take part in the call-in process that the district council has. Therefore, I'm proposing a resolution to committee that we still consider and make a decision on Cross Lane this evening at this meeting. But if any new information comes to light during the consultation period, we reserve the right to consider that information as part of our resolution at the next meeting of this committee on the 25th of April. Does anyone have any comments on that particular proposal?
Just to underline, reiterate, Chair, that members of the public probably find some of the procedures rather confusing, but you're absolutely right. The phone discussion would actually be contrary to the interests of residents who are objecting, because we lose the opportunity to call in, which in many respects is more important than our detailed comments might be.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckworth. Any other comments on the proposal? If I could just get a show of hands in favour of that. Thank you. Perfect. Have we received any public questions in accordance with Standing Orders 20?
No, none have been received, Chair.
Lovely. Any letters of objection?
So at the point of the agenda pack being issued, though, we had not received any letters of objection, but since the issue of this, we have received a number via email within the last couple of days in relation to the Cross Lane application.
Lovely. And councillors will have seen those and read them and will consider them at the appropriate item of the agenda.
We'll only have seen them if they're on the St Albans website.
I think that there were, I believe that some of them were forwarded through to councillors directly, is my understanding. I think it was from two residents. Had said that they'd sent them through.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
Could we see if we can
Of course, yeah.
Maybe the only one to
take some at
Southport
the
Council.
appropriate time?
Yes, I've got a printed copy myself, just here.
Well, let's get that round and get the paper train.
Yeah.
Perfect. Item 7, applications registered the weeks ending the 10th to the 7th and the 24th of March. I will take the item at Cross Lane first. Could you remind me what page it's on?
It's on page 19.
Okay, so it's application 5/2023-0317 at land south of Cross Lane. I will invite the agent speaking in favour of the application to speak first, the residents to speak second, and Councillor Heritage, who's speaking as the county councillor, to speak third. It is a 3-minute time slot. If members of the public and the agent could keep to that, that would be very much appreciated. I will now hand over the floor.
Okay, hoping you can hear me there. All good?
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear
great.
you clearly.
Brilliant. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. The application site measures approximately 6.7 hectares and is located on the south side of Cross Lane on the southern edge of Harpenden. The application seeks outline planning permission for up to 31 dwellings comprising 19 custom and self-build and 12 shared ownership homes. Permission is sought for details of the site access, the layout of plot boundaries and routes within the site, together with the details set out within the design code and accompanying parameter plans. The design code sets the framework and rules which the design of all homes at the site will need to follow. It aims to deliver the highest standards of design, sustainability and energy efficiency while responding to the particular site context to achieve a sensitive form of development. All homes are proposed to be designed and constructed to certified Passive House standard. Public access to the site will be substantially increased by the proposals, and the amenity value of the site will be enhanced through the provision of new and improved routes through the site and generous areas of public green space, including a community orchard. The application follows extensive community and stakeholder engagement, which has directly informed the proposals. This included a full-day public engagement event early in the design process. Our approach to local engagement has been commended by the chair of Look St Albans and has generated considerable local support for the proposals. The proposals will have minimal impact on the openness and strategic purposes of the wider Greenbelt. The proposed development will help to address the acute housing delivery and affordable housing need in the district and the council's statutory duty to grant enough permissions for serviced self-build plots to meet demand. The application includes a detailed transport statement supported by traffic count and non-motorised user surveys, as well as an independent road safety audit. This demonstrates that suitable, safe vehicular and pedestrian access will be provided to the site, and the proposals will not have a severe impact on the operation or safety of the local highway network. The proposed development adequately addresses any ecological and arboricultural impacts through suitable mitigation, protection and enhancement measures. The proposals will strengthen existing green infrastructure at the site and result in biodiversity net gain of 28.4% for habitat units and 60.78% for hedgerow units. To conclude, very special circumstances exist to justify the proposed development, and the factors weighing in favour of the proposals outweigh any other considerations. Thank you.
That was exactly 3 minutes. Thank you very much. I'll now invite the resident to speak. I'm not sure which resident is speaking, but I will invite whichever resident it is.
Do you want me to, can I do it there? It'll be easier. I also have some notes just to keep me on message and to keep me within my 3 minutes.
Perfect.
My name is David Best and I chair the Friends of East Common Group and also the Grange Court Road Residents Association. Friends of East Common comprises almost 250 households in the area. I've lived in the East Common area for more than 30 years and first came to Harpenden over 70 years ago. Local residents are strongly opposed to this application. It's plainly contrary to several policies within the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan, but in particular policy T6, which requires new developments to safely link in to existing or proposed footpaths leading to bus stops, etc. It's contrary to the reasons given for refusal in relation to a similar proposal on this land many years ago. Namely, the Cross Lane is a single track road and the increased traffic and junction onto the St Albans Road would render it wholly unsafe. The applicants carried out their traffic survey in November last year. They have failed to present a true or accurate picture of the importance of Cross Lane to dog walkers, horse riders, pedestrians, cyclists and joggers. Even in November, non-vehicle users outnumbered vehicles. From this time of the year onwards, recreational user numbers increase enormously. To force the increased number of vehicles that these proposals will produce down a narrow lane with no passing places would be an incredibly dangerous step to all. This development would blight and ruin this quiet area of South Harpenden. It would deprive the many walkers, joggers, horse riders and families of much needed leisure space leading to the common. It is unsafe and unviable on a road that has no passing places. Indeed, there is no room to create a wider road, which itself would be undesirable. It will lead to queues of lorries waiting to cross the common and golf course, who incidentally filed their objection this afternoon, during the construction phases, and then hundreds of extra cars and delivery vans. You may be aware that during pre-application discussions, Herts Council Highways Department indicated that they would refuse consent based on what was put before them at that time due to the increased traffic consequences. None of us in the local area have had sufficient time to put in our detailed objections yet. Indeed, we've engaged a planning specialist and a transport consultant to advise on the application. Their work is still in progress. We're all being presented with a one-sided and misleading set of documents stretching to over 700 pages. Local residents and East Common users consider that this application is for a development that will have serious safety implications for all non-motorised users of Cross Lane and the surrounding lanes. It will lead to irreversible and ongoing damage to Harpenden Common itself and the permanent loss of valuable green belt. The nature of
It starts summing up.
one more sentence.
Yeah,
The
perfect.
nature of the site and infrastructure around it means that additional car use will be inevitable because there are no realistic alternatives to reaching local amenities.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And now I'll hand over to Councillor Heritage.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Sorry I can't be with you. Unfortunately, I've returned from holiday with a horrible cold, so I thought I'd better keep it to myself. I wanted to speak briefly to you tonight to urge you to refuse this application for 31 dwellings in this very special part of Harpenden. The district does not have a local plan, so we do not know what quantity of homes are needed, nor what size they should be, nor where they are best placed, without harming the social, economic and environment credentials of Harpenden. Any development proposed on a greenbelt site that has not been identified by a local plan must demonstrate very special circumstances for usage of that site. At para 7.7 of the applicant's planning statement, this provides the applicant's view of those special circumstances. I suggest that not all of these reasons are applicable and do not go far enough in mitigating the harm to the green belt. I am very uneasy with this application being an outline, especially around landscaping, and there will be many matters that will be considered under reserved matters staged if approved. The future design of the proposed dwellings will rely on design codes. These would be the first set of design codes, I believe, for the district. At the moment, there are no rules around design codes within the district or the local plan as it exists. Therefore, if this application is approved, we may well have codes approved on the hoof without proper consultation. This could impact on the Harpenden Conservation Area, which borders the site, and also an important and beautiful part of Harpenden. The County Council's highways views following the pre-action discussion, as David Best has already mentioned, was to refuse permission for the development at Cross Lane, as there was not enough road to support two-way traffic, and some of the points, some of the junctions were unsafe for pedestrians and cyclists. The development therefore will not comply with the MPPF and the local transport plan 4. Highways has not yet reviewed the current application, but I suggest that these 2 reasons for refusal will still apply. In addition to these highways points, I do not believe that the junctions at Cross Lane or Limbrick Road, or actually Cravels Road, can deal with the additional traffic that will need to turn right to access Harpenden. There will also be an impact on Cravels Road itself down into Southdown. There is also no reference in the application to the usage of Cross Lane by Harpenden Common Golf Club and its users, nor the safety of those users. There will also be inevitably more erosion of the common by vehicles, as there are no passing points along the track of road. Thank you very much for listening.
Perfect. Sorry, Terry, I cut you off just at the end. Thank you very much. Perfect. At that point, I'll hand over to you, Heather, to make your observations on this one. I don't know if you want to read the whole of your observations.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, a vast amount of my observations have been picked up by the various speakers that we've just had. But I mean, just to summarise, really, just for reading through here, what is different potentially from what has already been shared is that there is going to be 2 additional passing places that are to be created. One resulting from the new vehicular site access and the other on Cross Lane east of East Common. The makeup of the dwellings is to be 40% affordable housing and 60% custom and self-build housing, which equates to 12 shared ownership properties ranging from 1 to 4 bedroom and 19 self-build homes, which will be delivered across a variety of sizes of development or dwelling size, sorry. An awful lot of my observations have already been picked up, to be fair. But the developers mentioned that there were a series of letters of support had been provided with the application to the local planning authority. Since that time, there has been actually a number of letters of objection linked to the application on the website, which relate to the traffic concerns, inappropriate development in the green belt, loss of habitat, access route inadequate to support the construction traffic and the volume of residents' cars once the development is occupied, loss of important farmland, etc. Most trees and hedgerows to be retained, just a few small sections to be removed. There's no details currently of the parking provision, which, as Councillor Heritage alluded to, I think will be covered under the reserved matters. Yes, and ultimately the rest of it really has already been picked up. And then I haven't made actually any suggested recommendations for this, but I have just highlighted here the different neighbourhood plan policies that we can actually reference in relation to this particular application.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. Can we circulate the plans added so we have the 2 letters of objection?
Due to it being an outline application, there aren't any real sort of detailed drawings necessarily, but there are some sort of kind of outlined designs here that just shows the layout of the proposed site and the layout for how the plots will sit in the development. So I've actually got a few here that are pretty much the same, so we can share those just around. I think that's probably it. Not really.
While those are being circulated, any initial comments from councillors? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair. The initial comments, I know I could add more, but that's what it's at first I was puzzled when I was hearing that people who might object have only just done so, but then I looked at the dates of the St Albans website. And this reflects on St Albans, not on the applicant. That it was validated on the 1st of March, but not advertised for the 30th of March, which, and I now understand why objections are only just coming in. And this doesn't reflect whether, we want to recommend one way or the other, but it's useful background. And of course, our deadline for making a calling, should we wish to do so, is 14th April. That's cannot be altered, which is why we have this logjam, which is rather unfortunate on something which is quite controversial on the green belt and attracts a lot of interest. I don't find that. The other thing I'd like to make is a general observation in that the officer's observations are, as ever, very useful, and it will always be easier to itemise the relevant because so many can potentially do. But the main elephant in the room, as it were, is the national planning policy framework, which, as we know, in 147 says inappropriate developments by definition harmful to the green belt and should not be approved except in very special circumstances. And then substantial weight is to be given to harmful green belt. And there's some ground for what may or may not be special circumstances, but they have to be very special indeed. And I think that is the main hurdle that we're faced with. Because this is green belt, it's on the fringe of the town, it's on the fringe of the conservation area, currently agricultural land. And as we've heard, is used very much by in walking, dog walkers, cyclists, with the golf course nearby. So there is a very difficult issue of access. But I would say if anyone is going to propose something on such a sensitive site, actually looking at the quality of the application and the as it was sparsity of the buildings, and they're not densely packed, and the care with which some of the greenery open spaces wooded area preserved. Perhaps for a sensitive site, this is as good as it gets, which gives us a very difficult decision because we'd probably never have a better application for this site. But on the other hand, the horrendous difficulties of access. And I'll leave it there for the moment, thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butterworth. Any other comments, Councillor Cousin?
I would like to really, I guess, echo what Councillor Butterworth has said. I think personally, I mean, I don't live near here. I don't represent this ward. If you could just slot this in, and there were already a couple of two-way roads accessing the site, then I might be more sympathetic to it. But I think the access is just not appropriate. And I'm not surprised highways were concerned before. And, you know, highways are not always concerned about things. So when they are, you kind of have to take note. And ultimately, they don't seem to be really this, it doesn't get over the line for me. There aren't really any special circumstances to my mind that make it acceptable, given the sensitive location and the access.
Thank you, Councillor Cousin. Councillor Farmer, I think.
Well, I suppose I'm really reiterating what's already been said. Clearly, there are huge access issues, and it's difficult to see how they can be addressed without causing irreversible harm to the common and to the conservation area. And furthermore, I cannot see that the proposals, even I take the point that they are high quality, although of course once you've built on a site, you can then start having people putting in additional applications, which I realise is looking ahead, but you know, let's forget that. But the point is, I don't see that for the proposed site is so important that it demonstrates sufficient very special circumstances to justify the potential harm to what is prime green belt, the conservation area, and to the common. And I would point out, and it's always worth remembering, that the common is not just of local importance, it is of national importance and requires Secretary of State permission for anything that will affect it. And we need to remember that it is of national importance.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farmer. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I concur entirely. More than that, I think the access problem is probably one of, bar the fact it's common land, etc. I think the access problem is a major fundamental, and I suspect also there's an ownership problem as to who actually owns the access, and vis-a-vis parking places being put in, whose land is being put for parking places. Secondly, you've got Grange Road there, which is a private road. I can see that being used as a rat run. How that is stopped, I don't know. I think if you're going to have access onto the green belt in due course, which may or may not happen, then I'm sure there are many sites where you're going to get a better or a bigger bang for your buck or per your marginal acre of land than this one. I think it'd be a crying shame if this site were trampled on. I think it must be preserved as green belt. I think the whole aspect of the ambience, etc., that generally they're used by Joe Public, you know, the good of the community. I think it'd be a crying shame if this land were touched.
Any other comments? Councillor Hill.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I share the concerns on the access, particularly in regards to cycling and walking and horse riding. I think that over the railway line, when you get to the footpath, it's quite often used. I do it quite a lot. You walk down the common and you come back in round Southdown, the end of Cross Lane. So yeah, it's the residents absolutely right. There are a lot of walkers who use it as well as the golf course. So I do have concerns for the access, and on that reason I can't support the application, but also think that I will say there were comments in support of the application from residents, particularly people who say they're young families or who would like access to housing of this quality and size in Harpenden. It meets the housing need in terms of size, in terms of H3 on the neighbourhood plan, in terms of it's got quite a lot of 2-bedroom houses which we need. It meets the affordability criteria. From what I've seen on the design code, it's quite sustainable. So I can't support the application because of the access concerns that people have, and particularly if highways have raised that point. But I can't support a refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Any further comments from councillors at this stage? Councillor Boswell.
If I could just add on the access, I live in Harpenden on a different narrow road, one-way traffic with about 30 houses, and therefore the traffic type and the cyclists and the pedestrians all share that road, and it is potentially quite dangerous. No one seems has been injured in their memory as a result of an accident, but there are a number of near misses, and it is what it is where I live, which isn't near here. But I think we should think carefully before recreating the similar situation of mixing pedestrians and cyclists and traffic on a single track road. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boswell. I mean, I think broadly the consensus is, irrespective of whether or not we think that the particular application is of merit or not, whether we think it's appropriate for the green belt or not, there is simply no way that you can have a development of this scale with that access. And I think that, at the very least, is something we have to pick up in our recommendation. I think I take the points about the quality of the development, but I think it is important that we do note that this is an important piece of green belt that does currently have amenity use for residents, and I think that in and of itself adds to the level of special circumstance that we would need to be in favour of development here. So I think, personally, I think I'm minded towards a recommendation of refusal, mostly on the access, but also on the fact that it's green belt. Do councillors, I would normally put this to initial to see where we were and go from there. But do councillors have any strong feelings? I know Councillor Hill said you wouldn't support refusal. Do councillors have any strong feelings on refusal versus concern they would like to take at this stage? Councillor Cutton.
I think we should go for refusal on the basis of the, I take Councillor's point, and I know what he means. From the strength of what people have just said, I would have thought refusal would be appropriate.
Any other thoughts on refuse versus concern?
Yes, I would go for refusal, both on the access and the fact that I don't think it meets the special circumstances and the potential, not only that, but potential harm to important sites. And I mean, I understand the comments about the nature of the accommodation, which don't query that we need it in the town, but this isn't necessarily the right place to put it.
I would also suggest on that point, the transport or lack of it there to the centre of town, if you want for young families, 2-bed units, blah, blah, blah. As I said, there are many better sites if you're going to bridge the green belt that you'll be choosing to get better access, better bang for your buck than this one.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the recommendation I will propose, trying to get some words together that bring this to a sort of conclusion. I think the wording I propose is, whilst we acknowledge the efforts that have been made to meet neighbourhood plan policies and local plan policies at this site, the committee recommends refusal on the basis that the access is inappropriate for a development of this scale, and could therefore cause an adverse effect on, you know what I mean, highway conflict is the language
Yes,
we use.
it is, yeah.
Cause highway conflict, and that we do not feel on balance that it meets the special circumstances required for development on this important piece of green belt, noting the implications that development here could have on other key sites in the vicinity or neighbouring area, or whatever particular language we want to put in.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not sure we can take into account the effects it might have somewhere else. I think we just have to decide this one on its merits on the basis of where it is.
You mean, do you mean the effects on the
common?
Yeah,
He's more into the common.
Oh, I see.
Potential damage to the
Potential
green
damage.
humidity, etc.
So the effects on the nearby conservation area. Yes, no, I get that. Fine.
As I say, I'm more than welcome people to clarify language that I try to use.
So I think we should refer to paragraph 147 of the National Planning Policy Framework. Excellent.
I'm very happy in terms of, Heather, are you
Yeah.
okay to go away and look at the specific?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Perfect.
I've made a note of that.
Any other things we'd like to mention in our recommendation? No. All in favour of that as a recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
Lovely. So that's lovely. Well, residents and the agent and Council of Heritage may leave if they don't want to stay for the rest of the exciting meeting. Oh, no, sorry, we need to call it in.
Yes.
Oh, not, we don't
You
need
need
to
to
call it,
ask
we need to
if you
decide
like
if we
to,
want to call it in. Do we wish to call it in? Does anyone have any strong feelings? I'm seeing nods. That's a vote.
Okay, so that's agreed that I will initiate a call-in.
Perfect. And at that point, I would invite the members of the public who don't wish to stay for the rest of what will be a very exciting planning. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Terry's on as well. Hi, Terry. If you're
Thanks,
going.
Terry. You're welcome to stay if you wish.
Yep, I'm going to stay and listen.
Okay, lovely. Carry on. Right, okay, let me just bear me a second. Let me just put all these documents away and then we can start fresh.
Lovely.
There's quite a lot here. Okay, in a moment. We can start as we need to go on. Are there any other papers, no?
I'm just, while you're doing it, I'm going to say 5/2023, 0/2022 does not meet the criteria of required buildings.
I know we've decided what we've decided, but out of curiosity, can I see the objections that came in late?
Sorry.
I've asked about
Yeah. It was
It was
just
similar,
just from
basically.
two residents.
Yeah, it was surprising there weren't any more objections, but when you look at the time.
Not
there,
to
you can
us,
see what-
yeah, not to us. I think it's online.
Website.
No, just look.
I think there's probably a lot on there, but these were directed to the town council, so. Okay, right, let's move on.
5/2023, 0/297, 14 Aldwick Breed Crescent. Your observations when you've
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen.
this is new.
Yeah, so it's now PowerPoint Live. This is, do you remember we had issues with it last time? Didn't we?
Into the 21st century and half.
Yeah, okay, right, so 14 Aldwick Crescent. The proposal is to introduce a two-storey side extension over the footprint of the existing garage and carport to expand the ground floor living accommodation and the first floor to enlarge a bedroom, which will be 5 in total, and add a study. The two-storey element of the extension does not extend beyond the rear building line, just the ground floor element. A small 1.5 metre ground floor extension is also proposed at the front to extend the lounge space. The roof form on the extension is subservient to the main roof, being stepped in and below the main ridge line. The property is located on the entrance to Dalewood. Therefore, there are no properties to the side of the proposed extension to impact. The garage is lost with it replaced with a storage space. However, 3 off-street parking spaces to the frontage have been detailed on the plans. No tree work and not conservation area. Consider no objection.
You have
So I think I've got another image there just to show the side.
set further back into the side and it looked.
There's the image there that shows parking on frontage and
You go back to the frontage houses now, just to compare.
Councillor Farmer.
I'm going to make the comment that in order to get the parking space, and then I know the area quite well, it will have an adverse effect on what is a coherent street scene and designed as a coherent open street scene.
Thank you, Councillor Custom, are you going to make
do that one.
same?
Well, I was going to say something similar. I was going to say, first of all, obviously you've got a nice green lawn there now. To get 3 cars on, it's going to go. Now, I know people do that. Maybe you don't even need permission. You could just drive onto your own lawn and make it muddy. But it's a shame because it will have an adverse effect. I was about to say there probably is, and I don't know it as well, probably I could see a certain amount of uniformity on the road. But it's not, I don't know, it's not a conservation area. I suppose someone's going to be the first to do it. I don't know. It's not my favourite thing. Whether we can really stop it, I don't know.
We have a side view.
Side view.
Maybe we should look at the street.
Well,
see-
that's-
see
that's
that.
got to go off all of the care, haven't they? And it's not,
Yeah, can we have a look at the streets? Sorry, Councillor Farmer, yeah.
I'm just saying, it's not, I don't think it's strictly a planning matter, but I suspect, like most of the buildings in Aldwickbury, there were originally covenants to maintain the open aspect of the frontages.
It's not just the front as well. I'm a bit concerned about the side because obviously from the side you've got
Someone else's front.
yes,
Close.
Yes.
yeah,
Someone else's front.
and it's not mostly wall. So a bit nervous about this one.
I have, just as an aside, I have noticed, I've got pictures of it in my phone, of 2 or 3 situations where permission has been given and been built, and when you see the end result of large blank walls alongside existing properties, you begin to say to yourself, how did that get passed?
I'm in sympathy with that comment, and it wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like this on a corner.
Very frustrating, unfortunately. It's not allowing me to do the share screen with that page.
Was it 14 Old Brick Crescent?
I've got it here.
It's very annoying.
I mean, there are houses opposite, so actually the shielding from a hedge opposite.
It's going to be right up onto the boundary, isn't it? Next to the pavement.
Yes, right up.
I think that will have an effect on the openness of the streets.
And it is, that whole area is very specifically designed to have that open aspect.
You can see that
Yeah,
the fact
in
that
front.
it's got the cast up to the side
Yeah.
is in order to preserve sort of the view, as it were. Aspect. It's the technical word I'm supposed to use.
So, yes, the terraces, there's a small number of small growth terraces.
Don't know, it won't allow me to share the.
And you've got it on your screen, have you?
Yes, yeah.
It's interesting that not, as far as I can see, none of the similar houses around, which is all arguably on Dalewood, no one has built to the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no one's parked on the front garden
wait.
yet.
No, and no one has box on there.
Well, I think the parking on the front garden, I don't think we consider because that's not a planning matter. Because you can tarmac go to your front garden at any point.
There is one up Dalewood where the
They-
tarmac the front.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, actually, the driveway in a sense does go straight down. So I think just by tarmacking the frontage, it's just an extension of what's already.
Because it destroys what was originally designed, the aspect.
Yeah, but as I say, I think, taking aside the point about parking on the front garden, because we've had this conversation with previous ones in the past, and we just can't consider it. Yeah, I think we have concerns about the effect on the street scene and particularly the openness of the street scene. And I think we have concerns rather than refusal, but as I say, I personally would minded towards express concern versus impact on the street scene.
It's not one inspection.
All in favour?
Sorry, just to be clear, on the side, it's two-story extension, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Express concern?
Yeah, all in favour. And it's street scene and the openness of the street scene, so if we can delineate those two.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. 5/2023/0402 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. Nor does 5/2023/0450. So on to 5/2023/0284 Lee Road. Your observations on this one? When you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so 1 Lee Road.
I remember one Lee Road.
We do, yes. So the existing bungalow is sited on the junction of Lee Road and Clarendon Road and is surrounded by 2-storey dwellings. Planning permission has already been granted for a pair of semis. I'll just move on to those. Yeah. Be granted a pair of semi-detached properties on this site. An application for single detached dwelling of a similar scale and massing to the approved scheme is currently awaiting determination by the LPA. This proposal differs from the approved pair of semi-detached scheme by relocating the 3rd bedroom to the loft space with 3 Velux windows, enlarging the remaining 2 bedrooms to the 1st floor, and the addition of photovoltaic panels to the front roof elevation. Minor window alterations are also proposed. This committee's concerns over the previously approved scheme related to the positioning of the additional vehicle crossover, which Hertfordshire Highways had no issue with, not conservation area, consider no objection.
Thank you, Heather. How does it compare with the application we recommended refusal on?
So if you look at the screen now.
Oh, beautiful.
So the proposed is the top, the approved is the middle, and then the existing is, let me just have a look, actually, I might not have included these, yeah, so the one that's pending may not have the drawings for that one, actually, because I didn't see that it's relevant because it differed from this so dramatically.
So it's basically they've submitted the application for the 2 semis as a single dwelling. in effect?
No, so they did last time. So this time it's for a pair of semis again.
Oh, it's two semis again.
Yes, it's a pair of
Sorry.
semis again. So all that they're doing is they're wanting to make some changes to the approved scheme in the form of the photovoltaic cells on the front and a reconfiguration of the first floor of the bedrooms by putting bedrooms actually in the roof. So you can't see windows at the front, but there is actually Velux windows to the rear.
Fine,
So
sorry. in
that's
that
all
case,
that they're ultimately changing is.
Can I ask if they're altering the roof height?
They are not, no,
Previous
no,
approved,
they're not, no.
There's not much change really.
It's fine.
Perfect. All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's it.
Okay. 5/2023/0236, 3 to 5 Roundwood Lane.
Currently on the site is a bland office stroke industrial building with parking to the front and rear, which is set between residential flats to the left and a two-storey residential property to the right. The new proposal is for two-storey properties flanking two. If I move on to that. See it, there we go. Proposal is for two-storey properties flanking two three-storey townhouses, which are set back on a plot to accommodate the parking for the site, which consists of 2 parking spaces for each property and 3 spaces for the visitors. All width balconies to the rear are proposed at the first and second floor level, which overlooks Roundwood Lane open space and play area. The ridge height of the two-storey properties is below the height of the neighbouring properties, but the ridge height of the central 3-storey townhouse is approximately 2.7 metres higher than the apartments at Roundwood Court, approximately 1 metre higher than number 7 Roundwood Lane. There is low-level landscaping proposed to the frontage and rear gardens, which, with the exception of number 4, appear modest for the proposed number of occupiers. However, a public open space is close by. Hertfordshire Highways have recommended that the scheme is refused due to no visibility displays, crossover dimensions or cycle storage detailed on the plans. Hertfordshire Police have expressed concerns over the rear garden access arrangements for the middle properties, which do not have their own private access and are sheltered by tree cover, which could allow a burglar to enter the rear gardens unseen. I've said consider recommend refusal. The proposed 3-storey properties are the 3-storey properties as part of this scheme are an overdevelopment in terms of their height and bulk, which has a detrimental impact on the street scene. Policy ESD 1 and 2 of the neighbourhood plan and 69 and 70 of the district plan affairs. Would you like to look at drawings?
Could you just clarify the point about the rear garden access?
It might be clear from the plan.
Yeah. So basically, the rear gardens have got an access way which goes, well, ultimately, they haven't got any access at all from the back. And there's like a sort of a kind of a walkway that goes from a gate on this left-hand corner. So they're concerned that essentially people can intrude.
And that walkway is up to the allotment up there. That's a little.
Further along, I believe, yeah, further back.
It's the Roundwood open space, which we refurbished the play area very recently.
Yeah,
But it's not going to be very busy. As soon as it's dark, no one's going to be there. You could get into the back gardens.
I mean, it's more of just, I picked that up purely as an
Yeah.
observation that it was there on the,
Get the lots of back gardens, and I looked at that on the plan and I thought to myself,
It's
I don't see that one.
When will you finish?
Sorry, I agree with the officer's recommendation. I don't think this is ideal.
People are not happy
it's
with it.
I think in the
Also,
sense,
highways are.
it's the central elements of the scheme which concerns me. If it was 2 properties in the middle that were the same size, then I don't think I would have felt quite so strong.
Well, it looks like it looks like an overdevelopment.
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean, there's,
it's,
But I would also, my concern as well, I don't know whether it's with parking, it would be part of it, because it's right on that junction, that there's really no safe parking anywhere. So all it takes is, I don't know, a teenager wants their car, and you haven't got enough spaces.
And opposite that, you've got the entrance to Homedale.
You have.
And that's effectively what,
Yes.
one width of car in there. So you've got to stop and wait or whatever.
So highways aren't happy.
Yeah, if highways are unhappy, it's but it's whether we, I think the recommendations.
I mean, I haven't mentioned in the recommendation anything in relation to the parking or the highway conflict.
Yeah, I think
So
that we should
I'd
probably.
like to include that.
How many spaces do you need for a bedroom? flat?
So in theory, you should have three and a half.
Two.
But there are the visitor parking
Yeah.
spaces, so they're referring to them as visitor, although in theory you could use them as part of the development.
But then there'd be conflicts. There are 4 units and only 3 spaces, aren't there?
The technical point, did they not need to apply for a change of use with it?
No, you don't need to now, no, and leave me hence worry about the other one and Vaughan Road. is-
No.
Yeah,
Trying to, I take the point that it's near an open space, but I'm trying to work out if it's a bit low on amenity space.
well, that's what I mentioned, it's sort of
Yes,
felt for
it's a
the
bit-
proposed number of
bit
occupiers,
squished.
it just feels a little small. A bit tight.
Let's just add that in. Express the, lack of amenity space and lack of parking.
I think I take the point on the means, I think that would be covered by the fact that it is back to
Yes,
the
to the
open space. I mean, we had that one with garages in Southdown, not garages, wooden panel close in Southdown,
Yeah,
where they had that amenity space up, and that's not that close to the common relative to the back door.
Yes, I would just add, I agree with the bulk and side. I think openness, because I was thinking how wide it is really, especially at unit 1, I think it is on the left.
Yeah.
You know, the current site is quite green and
yeah,
open.
because this is the existing site here.
I mean, the height actually, because some of those, the height, you see, we've got 3-story building there, flats there, and then I think you've got flats opposite. So the height is, but for me, it's the width especially. How you lose the openness of the site.
Yeah.
Particularly with the green space behind, you know, the
Yes.
green
And
space.
flats opposite, they're sort of half a floor down in the corner there with the roads above the ground floor.
I'm trying to work out, in fact, given that height, whether it's actually going to have an adverse effect on the amenity of the neighbouring properties as well.
Well, I mean,
Is there a window, is there a window at the end of the flat?
Oh, right, yes.
If there's a window on the left.
no,
There
there's
isn't,
not,
is there?
no.
Oh, no, there's not.
It's the
No.
sort of density you
But
might have in the middle of a town.
Yeah.
property behind, but if you look
They're
behind,
flat
look
behind.
through there, if you look behind,
Mm.
They would be affected by it.
they're going to be adversely affected, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's how far away, it's hard to get scale.
But I think I was right to about.
Well, looking at
unit
the
one.
size, yes, looking at the size of the two central
Yeah, it goes right to the
properties,
boundary. If
it's
it's
going to inevitably have an
There's
adverse
a
effect
side,
on
there's
them.
essentially a metre gap
Yeah.
along the boundary with those
Yes, but
apartments.
given the height, that's going to be a serious loss of amenities.
Yeah,
Add a couple more things in and.
I think we're definitely adding in parking and highway conflict. I think the point about height and bulk is needs to have width in it as well to
Either
cover.
openness or.
Yeah, and the secondary point is that.
And I think also loss of amenity. If you
Yeah,
look at those
potential
maps
loss of
down there,
amenity.
yes,
So that's Round Court, isn't it?
yes, and possibly.
Potential loss of amenity for Round Court.
Yeah.
Like,
Are we concerned about balconies that overlook a play area, or is that? If they overlooked a school, we'd be a bit nervous about it. We think that's all right, that's fine.
I mean, you could just been sitting there with your window open, pretty much. So.
I mean, if you say if you had a window, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's fair enough. I just thought I'd ask the question. Okay, anything else you'd like to add to the recommendation? No, all in favour?
Okay.
Do we want to call it?
With those-
Yeah, in favour of confusion. Do we want to call it in? I think we probably should.
I think we probably should. I'd go for it.
Okay.
All in favour?
I wouldn't, but
Okay, I will initiate a call-in.
Lovely. 5/2023/0413 does not, well, it is now. 5/2023/0414 17 Park Hill. I think we considered that one quite recently.
You have.
We have. I recognise,
Greatest hits.
yes.
Okay, this application is a resubmission following refusal. This proposal remains unchanged at ground floor level from the refuse scheme, but does remove the first floor rear extension, which was to create a further bedroom, 4 in total, therefore reducing the proposed number of bedrooms to 3 and addressing the reason for refusal by the LPA. By reducing the number of bedrooms, this scheme also addresses this committee's concerns over inadequate parking provision. This property is the last in the line of local listed properties in the conservation area. And also consider no objections subject to the previous reasons for refusal being addressed.
Any comments from councillors? No? All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
5/2023/0378 doesn't meet the criteria, nor does 0/2023/0394. On to 5/2023/0345 at 21 Haddock Wood.
Okay, and the proposal is to demolish the garage and replace with a habitable accommodation with an extension to the rear in line with the existing rear building line. It's then proposed to extend a first floor above this new extension to expand a bedroom and the bathroom and introduce a 4th bedroom. There is parking provision for 3 cars on the frontage, which is adequate. The road is made up of a number of styles of property, many of which are larger properties than this proposal. The building line of the frontage is stepped in towards number 19 Haddock Wood, with the first floor element stepped in again, making it subservient in the street scene, not conservation area. Consider no objections subject to no loss of amenities to number 19 Paddock Wood, policies ESD 2 of the neighbourhood plan and policy 72 of the district plan affairs. Oops.
A creative parking.
Put you in the car.
Yes.
You park it at a very specific angle, you can get 3 on it. Any comments from councillors?
Sorry.
Go up, plans.
Numerous plans.
Well, fortunately, just 2 actually for this one,
Okay,
which makes life easier because it's an easy comparison to make.
We know the width from the boundary.
Not off the top of my head, but I think
Looks about the same.
it's just over, I think, because they're basically replacing the existing garage.
Yeah. Go look at the front again.
Yeah.
It's my only concern, if I mention. It's sort of effectively like a terror. I mean, I'm happy with the recommendation because we've covered, I guess, my concern. Presumably 19 is to the left.
19 is to
Is it?
the, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is sort of the like effectively, I guess, the terracing effect. But I guess it's covered in the recommendation.
My only concern, having sort of thought about it, I thought the parking looks a bit odd, but if you think about it, I think the plan shows the parking right up against the house and reversing onto the road. Now, there happens to be a bush there that seems to block someone reversing a car parallel to the house onto the road.
Whether or not the bush is still there, I don't know, because obviously these are Google drawn.
There is a-
Well, there is a little green blob, which I
There
assume
is this
is.
green block.
It's not clear.
There is a green block,
It's a large green blob, actually.
which I took to be a tree, but
Which I
could
take to
in
be
fact be a
Only
green
the
block.
bush.
Yes.
Be the bush.
Which I have to say, well, in fact, it looks like a third car on the right, is more or less having to park right under it to
Yeah.
fit in.
I don't think the parking is feasible. I think they've had a good
Well, it
go.
looks a bit. I realise if it's a draw, it might be 100%.
Quite like to get that. Quite like to get that architect in a Tetra check.
It's I think it's pushing it, getting 3 cars in there.
Yeah, I think we need to mention the feasibility of the parking, even if we have no objection in general. So just something that we note that the parking could create the potential for highway conflict.
On top of that, I suspect the chap's gonna have to drive over the neighbour's corner on the land to get onto the road.
I think that's covered by highway conflict.
Okay.
There's also a bush that side according to this.
It's that bush there that bothers me. That's how it is.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
I
I think that's
appreciate.
gone. That one I think has gone because
It's called a tree.
Well, there's a
Oh,
tree
yeah,
there,
there's
block.
one there
I
and
think
one there.
Nigel's gonna the tree would be there.
It's very tight, isn't it?
I hate you're going to have conflict with this chap because you're going to blow his.
You're going to have to get, yes, because you're going to have to swing round, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that picture there, it's perhaps,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's only for 2, although there's more space, I don't know.
Mind you, to be fair, it's not a very busy bit of road.
I think because that tree there is what that,
Yeah, that
Trees
tree is,
there.
It doesn't go
as
anywhere.
Rosemary described it, the
It's a
green
cul,
blob.
it's a cul-de-sac essentially. You've only
Yeah,
got
there's not much to that.
properties there. It's not going to get random parking.
No, but you could end up with parking on the pavement, which
Yeah.
is unideal. Context where we're trying to make Harpenden more friendly to people, disabilities and things.
Such as
Like added just no loss of witnesses, number 19, and safe ingress and egress of the driveway or something, I don't know.
or adequate sort of, I suppose, adequate usable parking provision,
Yeah,
something like that.
I just get the office maybe to look at it.
And I just think
Well, I think serviceable parking
I
provision.
can't see you can, in reality, get 3 in there.
okay, all in favour of that as a recommendation.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Now, here's one I've definitely seen before.
Yes.
Yes. Second
Oh,
one.
it's fine, isn't it?
I wondered when this is going to come back after that last bit of green
I
space.
think it's called mission creep.
5/2023/0273, the old 8-3 site, Hatching Green.
Okay, planning permission has already been granted on 2 occasions for a similar scheme. One application for 5 dwellings and the other for 7. This is for 9. The additional 2 bungalow dwellings are to be positioned on an area which was previously designated as open green area. Despite the loss of the green area, landscaping will be retained along boundaries and reinforced in certain areas such as the southern boundary where vegetation screening from the highway and public vantage points already exists. These 2 additional properties do remove the open nature of the previous proposals. If I move on to that, you can see it there. The open nature of the previous proposals with 2 of the dwellings now are semi-detached properties. Parking provision remains at 2 per property, which is sufficient for 2 3-bedroom properties. Proposal references the housing density of Manor Close and Jesus Cross Walk opposite as setting a precedent. Though that it's appreciated that these additional properties do bring the development closer to the Grade 2 listed thatched cottages in Hatching Green. The site is in the green belt and the conservation area. And I've said consider express concern that the proposed additional new dwellings on the site removes the open nature of previous applications, leading to an overdevelopment of the site. The proposal could also have a detrimental impact on the Grade 2 listed properties close by, as this proposal introduces properties close to their boundary, which has not previously been the case. Policy ESD 1 and 2 and 4 of the local plan, and policies 1, 69, 70, 85 of the district plan affairs. If I can just show you on the screen, so this is the application that was approved for the 5 dwellings with the land at the top here, essentially sort of kind of like a wildlife open space area.
Yeah.
Moving on to the application, which was then for 7 dwellings, still retaining this wild open space, green area, and now moving on to the application that we've got in front of us tonight. We've now lost that green open space with the addition of 2 further dwellings, and these 2 plots here have become the pair of semi-detached bungalows.
It looks to me like the properties are bigger as well.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
I'm not sure that they are, they're just more tightly cramped.
On top of
I-
that.
Sorry, I went to have a look at this because I wanted to remind myself, particularly with the reference to Manor Close and Beescroft Walk. I don't think those are fair comparisons, given the different natures of the sites. I can't speak to the evolution of Manor Close and Beescroft Walk, but it looked to me like they were originally sort of barn buildings. That have been
They were new builds.
Were they new builds?
Yeah.
In any case.
Fisher is, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
They are very different developments to what they see. And this is an important piece of green belt, and it would make that into effectively a residential street, whereas at the moment it is not a residential street.
Can you go back, Heather, to the picture, the plan you see of that picture, but that going that
That
way, is
one?
that, no, the one with
That
the,
one?
is that 7? Or is
That's
that-
the 5,
Go to the
that's the
7.
very first, and then that's the
You can go
7.
to the 7. If you look at the, to me, there's far more, these two properties, you know, there's a bit more of a gap from the road to these ones at the back. Whereas the next one, you've got all that lot coming right down, one long line, one long slab.
There's the road. So you know Hatching Green.
I know where the Busy Bees, I know where the nursery is.
So where Manor Close is, this is opposite it. So it's behind the back, what I call the back row of Hatching Green.
So you walk into the park.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
carriage go when you go to the manor, you turn right and go down.
Behind the thatched cottages,
Yeah.
which are
So
listed.
Councillor Palmer.
I just say, I actually think this is extremely disappointing
Oh, yeah.
to see that what was previously put in the 2 acceptable schemes have now put in a scheme that in my view is wholly unacceptable. It destroys the open element, it destroys the setting in the green belt, and it destroys the setting in the conservation area, and I think it's frankly wholly unacceptable.
If I recall correctly, wasn't there originally a one-bedroom, one
Yes.
house?
Yes.
There was, and that was refused.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a mansion-esque proposal. Yeah, that was before all of these.
I recall it well. Councillor Pleasant.
I was just going to echo what Councillor Bob said. I mean, I suppose you could argue there's slightly more public benefits to having. I was trying to think, why would one house get refused and 7 get acceptable? But there's arguably a bit more public benefit to have 7 houses. But I think 9 is too many, and we should have it refused.
Yeah.
Rather than accepted. So
7, just to answer that, 7 is more acceptable because they met the housing need. Yeah. And therefore there was a special reason to build on green, but I can't remember the precise phrasing. You know what I mean?
Special circumstances,
That's the one.
yeah.
Yeah, great. Roger, you had a
Yeah,
hand
I
up.
looked back at the reasons, and there was this recommendation for the last one that was approved, which is the 7th. And obviously it is green belt and there were very special circumstances. And weight was given to the fact that the open area, not there, but on what
Yeah.
was approved,
This one here, yeah.
that goes some way to preserve the openness in the green belt and conservation area. In a way, this doesn't clearly because it builds on it, and I know they built on it very densely. These 2 pairs of semis, very dense use of the land. There's very little immediate space, which is an added point for the would-be residents, and they'll overshadow the very, very attractive listed thatched cottages on Hatching Green.
And just on the point of Greenbelt, I think this does, as I say, in a way that the previous applications didn't, turn this into a residential street. Whereas currently it's a street with residential properties off it.
Yeah.
And I think that is important because this is an important piece of Greenbelt.
Great.
So I didn't recall having a problem with the 7th one, but it is very disappointing.
No, well, I mean, the history, I think, is there.
It's
We
inadvertent.
didn't, no, we didn't have a problem with it.
It's inadvertent to our, back to analysis, there's foundations in there today, I walked past. And, but I wonder if the 7 or for the
Well, yeah, no, there's building.
building, but there's like actual foundation, so I find that quite,
Yeah.
I find that quite shocking this morning.
They've started actually.
They've started, but I mean, presumably it's that, not the 9, obviously, but then what, then we'll include different positions, but you were saying. It's actually probably
Different, yeah, they have.
Yeah.
it's not landscaping, clearing out the site, it's proper,
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
There's foundations
it's
in.
proper foundations in,
I think there is a distinct lack of respect.
but that's for the district rather than us, but.
There'll be another application, won't it? Then to make it 13, because the existing 7 plus another 4, whatever it is, doing 11, sorry. Plus another 4.
Yeah, or maybe even if they started building, if they get the principle of 9, they can come back with the 7 as they are and then do the 2 elsewhere.
Yeah.
That just reduce it.
Yeah, well, and also I don't know if this is something we can raise at this stage, but I seem to recall that the reason we let it go on trees last time was because of the fact that they had the wildlife area that was greener.
Yeah.
So I'd be tempted to add some language in.
Around surrounding the trees.
Right, I propose a recommendation of refusal. Feel quite strongly about this one. So I would ask for a vote on that first. All in favour of refusal?
Okay, right, recommend refusal.
I
On
would also like to,
as many bases as possible.
I think you've captured.
I think I captured, I mean, I've got the luxury of listening back as well, so, but yeah, I have made some notes here.
And I would also propose that we call this in, given it's on the green belt.
Agreed.
Okay,
That's a majority, so. Lovely.
Very rarely third,
it will be the 3rd, yes, of course, the other one was round, the Roundwood Lane one.
It is very rare that I propose a call in. 2023 0387 does not meet criteria, so on to another one we've seen before, 2023 0254 at 6 High Street.
Okay, so this is the site of the existing M&Co and stroke Kingston House. Probably the images I've got here won't be the most helpful, unfortunately, because they're quite small. But anyway, this application is a resubmission following refusal of a similar proposal from 2022, which was refused on the design and bulk of the second floor roof terrace, which this committee also had concerns over. This proposal is still for the standard change of use elements and internal alterations which are to be expected for this type of application as per the refused scheme. At ground floor level, externally, there is very little change from the existing facades to the front and the rear. Materials and design are sympathetic and in keeping with the property which is locally listed in the Harpenden Conservation Area. This proposal still includes roof extensions to the rear in the direction of Leighton Road and development at second floor level. Instead of the lightweight, predominantly glazed pergola proposed in the refused scheme, this proposal is for a setback from the edge, open timber framed pergola with tile cladding along with glass balustrading around the perimeter. This new design caps off the end of the extension facing Leighton Road with timber tiling, making it less visible to the street scene and goes some way to address the previous reason for refusal in terms of noise nuisance and being in keeping with the host and surrounding properties. Proposed opening hours are 8 AM to 12 midnight, Monday to Saturday, and 8 AM to 11 PM on Sunday. Approximately 250 patrons can be accommodated at one time. And I put here increasing potential car parking issues in the area. Good to see the occupation of a sizable vacant premises in the town centre. Site does not have a dedicated delivery bay with multiple daily deliveries and collections predicted. Green roof is proposed to the new flat roof element, the likes of which do not currently exist in the area. And I've said consider the committee continues to welcome the proposal for occupation of this important high street premises and are encouraged by the proposals for the ground and first floor levels. However, still have concerns and therefore recommend refusal of the application as a whole due to proposed second floor extensions still deemed an unwelcome and out of keeping addition to this locally listed building in the Harpenden Conservation Area in terms of proposed materials and design. Policy 69, 72, 85 and 87 district plan and policies ER1, ER5, ESD1, ESD2 and ESD9 of the Harpenden Labour Plan Affairs. So it might probably be better for me to show you the actual physical drawings because these aren't the most clear. So ultimately, this was the previous proposal, which had sort of very open sort of structure, sort of kind of frame structure. And then on the right-hand side, you can see here.
It's the brown
You see it
triangle.
like a shed.
Yeah.
Like a shed on the
Yeah.
roof.
Don't think that's how they did.
So,
I see, yeah.
yeah, so
So
there's
it's the
not a,
brick.
yeah,
Brick, yeah.
it's not, it's tile with cladding. But it is still open along the long sides, but they've got this sort of kind of wooden, I think it might be
Open
wise
along
for
the
me to show
sides, but
you.
not back.
Right, yeah.
So you'll still get the noise.
You still get the noise.
Yes, I mean, I might have tweaked the proposal, but it's still
Problem
enough
is,
amenity.
problem is like noise still, and if it's open at the sides, it's still like noise.
I mean, are we able to limit also the hours of opening?
We can't. but-
Well, we can't, yes, I mean, we can. I mean, whether or not the request would be that you could put in conditions about the hours of opening of the second floor terrace, then, you know, that's possible. But I think to restrict the hours of opening for the whole premises may be tricky, bearing in mind that other premises like the George next door probably have a very similar opening hours, but they don't have that open second floor,
So they're open until 12 o'clock, are they?
I think so.
if not beyond, yeah. Yeah, the George would
I'm
be.
not out at that time of night, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But they don't have 250 people, do they, in the church?
No,
Well,
I mean, I think the issue probably surrounds this second floor proposal is the fact that it's open in nature. If it was a brick structure and contained, then we may feel different, but it's open.
If you built something that looked like that on the right, but it didn't have an open side, I would have said actually no objection.
Yeah.
Because I'm very happy to see that building open again, given that it has been closed for at least all of the time that I've been around.
I mean, my reaction was I was going to sort of pass it until I saw that it was still sort of open sided. I thought, that's still a problem.
Yes.
That's exactly the position I have as well.
And also the hours.
The difference with the noise you have with the George, for example, is at like ground floor level.
Yeah.
The noise
Yeah.
won't travel so
But
far.
won't travel, but if you're up
Whereas
at
if
that
you have a
level,
high, you know, that you hear that all across the high street.
But it's
Yeah.
also, it's noise that's directed onto a high street, whereas this is noise that is directed
to a residential
onto a
area.
residential area.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not a
Yeah.
big residential area, there's not a lot of people who live on Lake Green and that, there are people who live there.
But especially on flats, I feel
Yeah.
like I have more concern if people live on flats because they naturally their flats might be of smaller density or they don't have like outside space. I'd be more concerned about someone, the amenity of someone in a flat than in a house. Really.
That's the lucky.
On that point, if there are flats in that block, and there's a current permission not yet implemented for the Barclays Bank building to have more residential accommodation on the high level. There was a big concern last time over the roof box. And I think we focused more on the appearance of it rather than the noise, but they're both very important. In terms of appearance, actually, it's a lot better now.
Oh, yeah.
Having said that, this is a sensitive site. The front is left in this building, but actually they're improving the front and not, which is good. And the approach from the south that's fine. It's the back, and Leighton Green is one of the Harpenden ancient greens. It has two nationalistic buildings around it and quite a few, actually half a dozen or more locally listed buildings. So it's quite sensitive in terms of altering the appearance, but I don't think that's too bad in terms of appearance. In terms of noise, I agree, noise travels down. So if you're having party on the roof, which is what's proposed here effectively every night, then it is going to interfere with residents. And there are several, both in that block, in flats, and in Wellington House, next to Waitrose.
Of the houses.
And Leighton House, I think it is, which is the big-ish house directly opposite the back. And slightly further afield. So the noise is a problem. I looked at the objections, and actually noise is mentioned all day long in relation to Ashton's estate agency. The noise creeping through, plus loss of amenity in that some windows, and well, certainly people on the top will look down into windows in Ashton's, including toilets. Seems a bit odd. So more attention would need to be paid to that, but you can do something about that, but you can't really do much about the noise.
No.
If it's allowed. And certainly if it's allowed, I think up till midnight is too long, at least for the being open on the top level.
Because the thing is, you could do something about noise if it was enclosed.
Yeah.
Because noise that's enclosed, you can require soundproofing and you can require all sorts of other things. The problem in this, as I say, as we said last time, it's no
Well-
problem with them using the second, third, whatever floor it is. The problem is you have to do something that is sympathetic to the fact that this is going to impact on a residential.
Because ultimately it's for that reason why really the district refused it.
Yeah.
So I mean, they complained over the design and the bulk of the second floor addition, but they do also mention interaction with the existing building and the introduction of activity at this high level.
Yeah.
It's not considered that this proposal will preserve or enhance the character of the conservation area, et cetera. So it is ultimately that the activity at that high level that I don't feel that they have
We could put those words in.
adequately.
Yeah.
Basically, they
Haven't
haven't
dealt with it.
fully addressed the
Having
reasons for
that number of
refusal.
people at the higher level, the second floor, is there a need for a fire escape?
Well, the two staircases.
There's two
Oh,
staircases, but the
okay,
200.
that's what-
Right,
Right to the
well,
top.
they have the bulky thing at the back, so you staircase.
Yeah, I think there are two staircases. There's this one here and there's another one.
I know there used to be a second staircase in the old building.
So I think they're adding an additional
Everyone's gone,
staircase
okay.
on this end, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But the 250 is across the whole
Even still.
site. Yeah.
There's quite enough on the top, actually.
Yeah.
As you can see from the-
Yes, sorry, go on.
Yes, I was going to say, if we go for refusal, do we not want to say as well in the recommendation that referred to that previous reasons for refusal have not been fully addressed?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, personally, I think the recommendation is the committee continue to welcome a proposal for application. High Street premise are encouraged by the proposals for ground and first floor. I think we should also say and feel that progress is being made on the second floor. Because I think it is important to point out that this is better. If this gets through, I'm less annoyed about it than I would have been. However, we feel that the reasons for refusal have not fully been addressed. And therefore recommend refusal of the application on the basis of, and then whatever other wording.
We can
put
use
in.
this up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
That's okay.
broadly fair. All in favour? Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to call it in?
Well, I guess so.
I don't,
No?
I
I
don't,
suppose the officers have had that.
I don't know, because it's been refused once. I mean, do we need to know the officers?
I
Look at it in the light of previous refusal.
am putting it to committee because I'm not sure.
Yeah, because it's such a sensitive site,
Yes.
or it is. I mean, if it was, you were seeing the second time round somewhere in a cul-de-sac somewhere in the fringe of town,
Probably not.
definitely not, but
It's a key location.
and it will affect so many people.
My reaction is as a one-off, yes. But now that we're at 4 for one evening, it. slightly
Well, that
bothers me.
shouldn't
Okay, I
Well,
will still have it
impact
call, I'll
on-
still call it in.
Hopefully it wouldn't be necessary, because it's obviously only call in, I guess, if the officer was managed to grant. But hopefully from their reason for refusal before, they will look at that again.
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't be called in.
And I think the thing is, we can't do it on a meeting by meeting basis because we haven't called anything in for a long
No,
time.
well,
Not
to
a
be fair,
significant
we-
number.
To be fair, we did, but we didn't receive the support from the district councillors
But the,
to do it, so.
But so there's no rationing, but if you look at the 4 tonight, at least 4, 2 are on green bells.
yeah,
This is very sensitive site in the town centre, so
If you've got 16 green belt applications that needed calling in, they would probably
Yeah.
still
Yes.
call them all.
This is more important than the
It's
round.
not on the, it's not sort of numerical, it's,
And the Roundwood one.
Well, yeah.
I mean, don't forget they're across different wards.
Yeah.
As well.
Two of them are in West, but
What's up?
April was a good bit.
Yeah.
All in favour of calling it in.
Okay. Call in.
Sorry about all the extra work we're adding to your
No, it's fine. I have it down to the T now. I have an arrangement.
5 2023 0413 0058 0460 not meet the criteria. I mean, we could have had a really controversial evening this week because 5 2023 0327 land at Cooters End Lane will be considered at full council in May. I mean, that would have been a hell of a night, wouldn't it? We'd have to bring blankets. 5 2023 0332 at 1 Park Rise.
Okay, 1 Park Drive. This property is a dated detached property that sits on the end of the row of houses with a detached garage to number 33 Park Hill to one side and the semi-detached property at number 3 Park Rise to the other. The proposals look to increase the footprint of the property at ground floor quite dramatically, but stepping in to reduce impact to number 3 Park Rise. At first floor level, a small extension is proposed over part of the ground floor extension, but is stepped in a good distance away from the neighbouring property. A loft conversion is also proposed, which will introduce a further bedroom, 5 in total, and a study. Dormer window to the front and the dormer and Velux window are proposed to the rear. Despite the proposals appearing ambitious, the plot appears to be able to accommodate them with no detrimental impact on the neighbours or the street scene. The application details 3 off-street parking spaces on the frontage, not conservation area. Consider no objection to the, so it's subject to, no objection, subject to notice of amenity to number 3 Park Rise, policy EST chair of the neighbourhood plan and policy entity of the district plan affairs. I think that sort of shows it's quite a good ample size.
Any comments from council? I mean, I think this is one we talked about before.
So,
It looks very similar to one we talked about before.
Yeah, the picture looks similar to one.
yeah, no, I don't think we've been here before. I've not anyway.
Any comments from councillors? No, all minded to go with the recommendation.
Yeah.
5 2023 0447 does not meet the criteria. 5 2023 0333 5 and 6 East Common.
This application is a resubmission following refusal of a similar scheme, which was refused on the size, bulk and shape of the 2-storey rear extension at number 5 East Common. This new proposal looks to reduce the size of the extension to number 5 East Common to be more modest and to not extend beyond the outer flank wall of the property. All other elements remain the same as the refused scheme. Consider no objection subject to the previous reason of refusal being addressed and the appropriate design and use of materials and these locally listed buildings in the conservation area. Policy 69, 72, 85 and 85 of the district plan, 85 and 87, so the district plan and ESD1 and ESD2 of the neighbourhood plan affairs. Not a huge amount to show, to be honest. This.
I was going to say, since we had no objections before, it would be decidedly illogical
Yeah, I agree.
to change.
Generally,
I mean, what they're doing now is quite modest, to be honest.
It's fine.
Okay, all in favour of the recommendation? 5 2023 0467 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. 5 2023 0422 at 1 Bowsworthy.
Okay, as per the history above, an application for a similar proposal was refused in 2017, which retained the garage element at ground floor and introduced a study area at first floor. The refused scheme was larger in terms of footprint, but not height than this proposal. The height of the refused was 6.5 metres and this new application is 6.7 metres. The width of the refused was 8.6 and this new application is 6.9. The depth of the refused was 6.4 and this new application is 6 metres. This proposal is to convert the first floor into self-contained habitable accommodation. The application details the future occupants as being members of the main dwellings family. However, this cannot be guaranteed as being the case into the future. Therefore, the property could be marketed as a standalone property on the open market. Despite this application being reduced in size from the refused scheme, it is unclear if it differs sufficiently to warrant permission being granted. Decision recommend refusal. The proposed extension and proposed future usage are deemed an overdevelopment and inappropriate for this location, which sits in the curtilage of a locally listed building in the conservation area. Policy ESD 2 of the neighbourhood plan and policy 72, 85 and 87 of the district plan.
Could it be potential future use?
Well, I think they've told us, I mean, it's in the plan, I think they've told us it's going to be used as a house.
No, I now understand what you meant by that, sorry.
I mean, you're more welcome to look at the drawings, I mean, it's essentially, it's a proper house.
Is there a picture, is a picture of the front?
Then you can't get to the front, unfortunately, it's actually accessible
It's a
up,
single track.
up a single track.
Side track.
Okay.
Yeah,
Back lane.
Yeah, so
The
the,
garage is up there.
1A is that house opposite.
right, so here, I've got the drawings for the refused scheme. And then I've got the drawings for the permitted scheme, which is actually how it's been built. And then the proposal for the new. Sorry, apologies.
So it's not visible from Bowers Way then?
It's not, no.
So if they used it in the future as a separate dwelling, would it really matter?
Well,
Like those advocates,
Well,
you can't
it's
see
quite
it.
a sensitive area. I mean, if you think about it, it's quite a historical area. It's some of the oldest properties in town.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to be very careful.
I mean,
some of
to be
them-
honest, you could almost start saying, well, if it's being deemed a standalone property, then you should start getting into the realms of, well, it needs to be by its own parking provision and all those sorts
Yeah.
of things, really.
Although it's quite a big area, but yeah.
Well,
So,
no, but
yeah,
it's
but
not.
it's
got no
not.
frontage.
Well,
It's the frontage, it has no frontage, so the area to the left is all their garden. It's access up the track
The idea
to,
is to keep on to,
Yeah, I see.
And if you get into having to provide parking, you're going to have access on the sunlight, which is not.
then you start getting into the realms of, refuse and all this kind of thing. It's,
Can't
it
build.
feels very backdoor.
Well, because of the slope at the front of those Sunlane houses, I think the bin men do go up that back lane already. There's one
But
house up there.
It's just then in the sense that they need to then provide their own sort of kind of separate, it just feels a very backdoor way of obtaining a residential
Yeah.
dwelling without maybe having the,
Let's put it. a different-
Can I ask, you said the risk of it becoming separate.
Yeah.
dwelling. Would that require permission in the future if that happens?
in theory, yes, because it really should probably be a change of use.
So in a sense, that's not a reason for refusal because it can't happen without a further consent.
No, but it makes it
No.
more likely to get a further consent if it already operates as an independent property.
Because then if it's an independent property, then it's subject to council tax and all those strict sort of.
So, but that's the point, isn't it? Therefore, it won't be an independent property because it won't be subject to council tax.
I think we have to look at it. We have to look at it as if this is a new building that they're proposing. So if they were knocking down the garage and trying to build how many bedrooms is it?
Just the one.
Trying to build a 1-bedroom house in their garden. I think we'd probably look at it and say this isn't appropriate because it's going to operate as effectively a new house on that side.
Well,
If you built it as an annex,
playing,
I wouldn't have a lot of problem with it. If you connected that wall to the wall of the garage.
but I'm going to play devil's advocate in the sense that, so my house in a national park, 2-bedroom, 2 garage, 2 detached garage block, but just next to the house, just like that. We've just got permission for 2 bedrooms up above, so we've got 2 bedrooms, the shower room and like a little kitchen thing downstairs. And that's just for our guests to stay at. You know, it's got no extra parking because obviously if you get a visitor coming, they park on your drive. And yeah, I would never want to turn it into a separate building, but if I did, then obviously I'd know that I would have to get it registered for council tax and get permission and make sure there's parking and stuff. So I don't know, I don't see that, how that is that much different to this really.
I think the difference is you couldn't physically do any parking for that. It's not possible if it becomes a separate dwelling. Unless that area in the front there is bigger than it looks and you could fit a car on.
But it isn't trying to be a separate dwelling, is it? It's just saying they're trying to build something for the children. Or like whatever, I don't know.
That's the fun.
I was going to say, I mean, we bring it back to the previous reasons why the previous application was refused, which we go back to that. I think the point is whether we think the previous reasons why it refused have been addressed.
I mean, in a sense, it is, in terms of size, it is smaller than what they proposed last time that was refused. But it's just whether or not actually it's a, you know, correct addition to that area of the conservation area.
And we don't have to distinguish Councillor Cousins' property somewhere else, but I think one distinguishing feature probably is that you probably have more land around about it, whereas this is actually quite a crowded plot, which was one of the reasons for refusal last time, in that what was proposed would fail to remain subservient to the house dwelling. In other words, you have a large garage with a next to the house, and detriment to the visual amenity of the main dwelling as a locus of this building. And I think, despite the slight changes in size, those are still valid points.
Does the house have on-street, off-street parking?
Yeah.
The main house?
Yes.
Under,
No,
Yes.
it's, well, no, because it's up here.
so the current garage being lost means they now will have no
So
on-street
the
parking?
garage isn't being
Off-street
lost, the
parking.
garage is still being retained. They're using the upper floor of the garage to provide the accommodation.
But there's different parking at the front.
I see.
So off of this, or what, in front of the garage or off
In
of
front
that
of the
little,
house, front of the house.
I don't think so.
not on Sun Lane, they don't.
They're not on something.
No, so actually
It's up the, yes.
Because I think the house is up the track, isn't it?
The house is on Bowers Way.
No, front's onto Bowers
Right,
Way.
okay.
I've had cause to visit it several times, very recently.
Yes, yes.
Fine, okay, that's good. So this is an additional garage that's at the back that adds additional parking
No,
at the
it's
moment.
the only garage.
Okay, but it adds additional parking to what's already on the front
This
end.
point is they're not losing parking, are they? Because the accommodation is above it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean-
I hadn't fully appreciated.
Years ago, they lost their garage because they went to living space and built this at the back, which already makes the plot quite dense up to the side lane.
So
I think
this is behind the house effectively.
Yes,
I mean-
effectively it's behind. And you go along the little lane.
Yeah,
thing.
Okay, I mean, we're not always going to agree every time. I think as it's not really visible, and they're not losing the garage, personally, I don't have a problem with it, but I understand if people do.
personally, I would do the half and half, which express concern, and then relate back to the previous reasons.
Yes.
Yeah,
Previous reasons for refusal may not have been fully met,
Exactly.
something like that.
Slightly passes the buck back, I suppose.
Yes.
I think that's reasonable. Like, as I say, I hadn't fully appreciated that we're still having a garage element, because some of them are concerned slightly addressed by that.
There's the garage there.
Yes,
Happy to go with express concern. So
I think that's it being built.
Mm.
Yes, okay, so express concern with the reasons given.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Yeah.
5/2023/0353 does not meet the criteria required. However, having looked at it, I felt that it was appropriate that we at least consider it in tonight's meeting. Purely on, as I say, the basis of where it is and the fact that there were objections to it. Would you mind passing the paper.
Rules, yeah.
As I say, I suspect we probably may not have something to say on it, but I just thought it was worth us taking a look.
Is your concern the actual application or because it's going from commercial to residential?
My concern is largely there were points about highways and waste that I thought were of merit when I looked at it.
So I mean, there's probably not a huge amount to see necessarily really in terms of the drawings. I mean, this probably is the most useful drawing, this one here, which shows the parking provision. Because actually this the elevations are not going to change at all. So the objections online were from a resident of Parkinson House, which I think is further down Vaughan Road, I believe.
You see the next door?
Yeah.
Directly next
It's the
door.
one down.
A couple of down, because this is 23 that we're looking at, and he's at number 17 Vaughan Road. So his concerns related to the bin storage that they're actually stating will be at the rear of Signature House, and his concerns that the residents of the proposed flats will not pull their bins back in after they have been emptied early on in the morning. And he's concerned that they will remain on the curbside for hours, if not days, before being returned to the store. So that was his concern relating to that. And then he states about that the plans show one parking space for each flat, meaning that visitors and delivery drivers to Signature House will park in Vaughan Road, which is already extremely busy during school drop-off and pick-up times. Danger to children and parents. And he states that traffic wardens don't patrol the area sufficiently, etc., etc. So
It was mostly that point about school parking that triggered my radar on, is this something we should be looking at? I do really not understand why the things are back, but
I suppose probably the bin stalls at the back because of it will impact on the parking provision at the front of this.
I was going to say, I think for quite a lot of the school parking actually go to Bowsways.
I mean, there's quite a lot of precedent, isn't there, because the next door are all apartments and things. I feel as if, yeah, but I feel as though those are more for the conditions of SADC.
no, as I say, I didn't necessarily think we were going to bring a resolution on this. I just, for completeness, felt that we should have a look at it.
I mean, the thing is ultimately it is a very sustainable location, but in terms of parking provision, it's probably a prime candidate for a reduction in parking.
I think we've done our due diligence. And we'll,
So would you like to put a comment at all, or are you happy for it to remain as it states that it
I
doesn't
think
fulfill the criteria?
I think it's fine. It doesn't fulfill the criteria. Having looked at it, I think we've done our basic due diligence on it.
Okay.
Lovely. 5/2023/0440 does not meet the criteria. On to 5/2023/0459 at 9 Birch Way.
I seem to have jumped backwards here. Okay, right, here we go. 9 Birch Way. This application is a resubmission following refusal of a similar application. There appears to be very little material change in the new application to the refused application. The design and access statement describes the roof line to the side extension to be 500 millimetres lower to allow the 25-degree, it should be, well, so yeah, so it is a 25-degree sight line to be achieved. It's actually from a window out and over the roof as opposed to the 45-degree visibility zone. So to allow the 25-degree sight line to be achieved for number 7 Birch Way, the drawings also now have descriptions relating to certain openings such as obscure non-opening, visibility zones, etc. But there does not appear to be sufficient change to warrant a change of opinion on the effect, should be effect, the proposal will have on number 7 Birch Way. Consider recommend refusal. The previous reason for refusal do not appear to have been sufficiently addressed. This one, I don't know.
Sorry, we're on, can we move on?
Was it not? Should do. Sure why. I changed my.
So we're still on that as well.
So there we go. Right.
I think you're doing it on the PowerPoint.
I'm doing it on the PowerPoint as opposed to on here. So this one was, if I can,
Opening to their garden again.
no, this was with the application. Was, yeah, I know, I haven't broken into the garden. This was
Either it's a massive house or it's a small goalpost.
It's a very small.
My size goes.
So, yeah, if you'd like to look at the drawings, this is an application which has got a very large flank wall extension down the side with a number of large windows.
I'm happy with your recommendation.
Yeah.
Want to see.
So, I mean, that's, essentially that was what they're proposing to go down the side.
Yes.
That's the refused one, and that does not change. The only thing that has changed is that they have made a very tiny change to the roof. But yeah, so down the side it looks exactly the same.
Would you, for due diligence and to preempt potentially Councillor Butterworth asking me to do it as well, can we list the reasons for refusal which we don't feel have been put in the recommendation?
Yes.
We don't need to do it now, but
No, that's fine. I've made a note.
perfect. All in favour of that recommendation? That's great. Okay, we've done the next one. Let's not do that one again. 2023 sorry.
Okay, carry on.
0483 at 43 West Common Way.
Okay, this property is a relatively modest dwelling in comparison to others in the vicinity. It sits on a good sized plot with garaging either side of the main house, which makes the property's footprint fill the plot width. It's proposed to extend over the side garage elements to 2-storey, leaving a 1 metre gap along each side boundary. The ridge height is increasing slightly with roof form maintained as hitched to provide accommodation in the roof. The central front feature of the existing house is being retained to maintain the existing character. The proposal appears to be in keeping with the surrounding area and doesn't create any detrimental impact on the neighbouring properties due to their positioning in the street scene. There is ample parking provision and no tree works, not conservation area. Consider no objections subject to no detrimental impact on the neighbouring properties. Policy ESD 2 is the neighbourhood plan and 72 of the district plan affairs.
Presumably not listed.
No, because it's not conservation area.
I meant other listed, national listed.
No, because it needs to be conservation.
Does it need to be conservation area to be grade 2?
Probably not, no, but I don't think a house in West Common Way would be grade 2 listed.
It's a big plot and
I mean, to be fair, it's a rarity in West Common Way for it to be the existing property.
but good that they're keeping the character or thinking about it, because even if this bit isn't conservation area, part of it is, I think, or very
Yes,
close
it
to
is, yeah, there is, yeah.
And there's a lot of characterful houses down there, but yeah, I'm happy.
All in favour?
That's agreed.
Sorry, I couldn't find my place then. 5/2023/0485 does not meet the criteria required. So on to 5/2023/0512 at 13 Aldworth Road.
Okay, it's proposed to extend across the full width of the rear of the property over the footprint of the existing conservatory and by 3 metres rearwards from the other existing rear boundary line at ground floor level and by 3 metre rearward across the full width at first floor level across the proposed extension. The 45-degree visibility zone for number 11 Aldick Road has been shown as not being impeded. Extensions look to expand the ground floor living accommodation and to expand the size of 2 bedrooms. No additional bedrooms are being added, not conservation area. Consider no objection.
Thank you. Hello, any comments from councillors on this one?
No.
All in favour of the recommendation?
That's good.
2023/0439 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. No appeals. Reservation or the tree works for noting. The list of weekly St Albans District Council decisions for noting. Conservation tree area, tree works and text applications for noting. The next meeting of this committee will be held on Tuesday, the 25th of April the last of our
Yeah.
term in office. And St Albans District Planning Committee meeting will be held on Monday, 17th. With that, I bring the meeting to a close at 9.
Councillor Heritage still on,
No, he left us some time ago.
probably that boring.
Apparently so.
So if we only have like literally one or two next time, it's always, well, it'd be nice, it's always a shame for our last